Okay, the last thing we're going to do today is I'm going to try and fill the color wheel with the colors that I have in my palette. So I'm not trying to, bring in some perfectly most versatile color palette. I just want to show you how you can do this with the colors that you have and you love. And you absolutely do not need to listen to any color advice about colors that you must have. Now, I will say one thing: if you want versatility, go for primaries. They will give you the most versatility, because with primaries you can mix pretty much everything, and then depending on how deep they are, they give you options also for dark colors. So you can see this is a very wonky color wheel. That's okay. So I think I'm not going to do a lot of mixes, but just show you how I place the colors. So again, I'm using this as a guide to help me when I'm not sure where colors land. And also doing this might help you kind of see maybe the small differences between colors in your palette, and it will help you also, decide if you wanted to curate a smaller palette. It can help you see which colors are a bit redundant in your palette. Now I'm going to use just my most favorite colors, and I can start with the most saturated ones because those are the easiest, I think, to place. And for example, for me, I don't really have orange in my palette, so these areas will probably be empty. And I'm also okay if my color wheel is not really proportionate, because there are certain areas of the color wheel that I like more than others. So I'm really okay with having more pinks and violets and yellows in my palette than, say, greens. Okay, so you can see compared to this color wheel, I moved the carmine one spot because I think it's a lot warmer than my bright rose. For example, I have also quinacridone rose, which I love, and probably falls somewhere in the middle between these two. So that's a great primary also. What else? I have, that's an easy one to place, ultramarine blue. It's I would say, it's not a blue violet, but it's definitely, it leans more pinkish than other blues. And I love that. I have cobalt blue in my palette, but I don't use it a lot, so I don't see the need to include it. Now, my next blue that I love is lunar blue. However, it's not a color that, I can say is saturated. It's definitely muted. So I'm going to put it here. It could probably also fit here, but usually I can get enough mixes out of it before I turn it completely into a neutral. So I put it here and not here because it's a lot warmer. It has more yellow in it than ultramarine blue. If I tone this one down a bit, it'll be probably something, even close to like lavender, something like that. Well, let's see. I'll demonstrate this part for you. So I have a little bit of ultramarine blue here. Let's do a classic kind of triad mixing. So if I added a little bit of this, it turned it a little bit into purple. And now if I add a touch of yellow, it will tone it down. And this is actually reminding me of Moon Glow. But it's still a bit more blue, I can say. And this is where you can really play and get to know your colors. So I highly recommend doing this, and doing this with the colors that you have and you love. As you mix them, you will learn to tweak the mixes, and you will see the possibilities that you have and the limitations of your colors. So let's put Moon Glow. I'm going to put it here, and we can see if it's really more, what is it? Okay, it definitely looks a bit grayer, I would say, so more muted than this. So maybe I could have put this one here. What other color? Okay, Cobalt Teal, my beloved. I'm going to put it here because it doesn't fit here. It's not blue enough. So I'm just going to place it here. Now, a test that you can do to see if this is like accurate is to mix it with a complementary color. So here I have a complementary color that is out of a tube, because you can see here, for example, the blue is opposite a space here which I haven't filled. So I'm not sure which color neutralizes it, but let's check ourselves. I think this probably won't be complementary colors. I think it'll be on the blue purpley side because they're just not yellow enough. Neither one of them. Wait, this needs more teal. So I think we can get very muted pinks, but we will never, very muted purples, but we will never get a real gray. It's just not enough yellow here. So you can see this is kind of what I got, a very muted purple. If I add a bit more of the teal, I get to kind of a bluish gray. So these aren't perfect complements. If I wanted to really neutralize it, I would need to add a little bit of yellow. And again, I'm really okay with it. It really just makes you learn, you know, how your colors work with each other. It's a great way to figure out what they can do. I'm still finding it hard to really neutralize it. I can get a brown now. It's actually a very pretty brown. So when you look at the neutral colors, you know, the theory is kind of that you wouldn't be able to say how you mix them. So you can't look at this and say, oh, this was nickel azo yellow, carmine, and cobalt teal. And that's kind of how you know you've reached that perfect neutralized color. Okay, so that was a test, a good one. And again, I don't want to fill now the whole color wheel. I just want to show you where I would place colors. Now let's see something tricky. So this is fuchsite. I don't really know where it fits, so I can look. I think this is a good match. This is green mixed with a little bit of white on their color wheel. So I'm just going to place it there. So it should be here. It's definitely not a super saturated color, but it's still, you know, I wouldn't even say it's muted. It's definitely somewhere between semi-muted and more saturated. Okay, let's look at some other greens and where they fall. I have my beautiful olive green. So now you might see that you don't even need the color wheel. Just looking at this color, it's a lot greener than this one, so it definitely doesn't fall here. It's a lot yellower than this one, so it definitely doesn't fall here. But it's also not a crazy, like, saturated, you know, green yellow. I don't have a green yellow on my palette, but let's see now if we can actually make a green yellow. with what we have, and it would be something, you know, something more like this. Like this, I would say, is a good green gold kind of color. Even that is not super saturated. I could try maybe mixing my yellow with the teal. Now again, this is where if you do enough of this, and if you have an understanding of, I mean, you see how much brighter this green is? Now these kind of greens do nothing for me, so I wouldn't mix that, but that's how you start to understand things. Now, if you wanted a lemon yellow, if you love lemon yellow and you wanted that in your palette, that would give you, with turquoises or any blue that is warmer, that would give you the brightest, most vibrant greens. Personally, I hate these colors that fall here on the color wheel like this. Blah. And this is okay. But this is, I have no interest for that, so I don't need anything here in my palette. And I'm okay with having that hole in my curated palette. So I hope that kind of helps you with there. So let's say we put the olive green here. And let's do another one. I have a color that I really love. This is dusk yellow. Now, again, I think it's so helpful to see colors like this because, you know, colors alone can be hard to categorize, but once you put them next to other colors, everything just becomes a lot easier and clearer. So to me, this is definitely a kind of a yellow green that is also muted, and it's quite muted, but it's still, you know, it has a lot of color to it. So I would place it somewhere here. It's definitely more muted than the olive green, but I think it's still, you know, I can neutralize it. Let's try and neutralize it with something we have on the palette, like cobalt violet. See these two? I will add it so you can see. This is really hard to categorize. It's like really hard to say this is, it's a gray. You know, you can say maybe it's a gray that leans a little bit green, but it's definitely a gray and a beautiful color. What else? What other colors I can show you? Okay, let's look at Cascade Green. So this is definitely a bluish green. So it would be either here or here. Actually, now looking at it next to fuchsite, I think they're quite similar. So I don't know, I guess it would be somewhere even like a neighbor. They could be together. It's just a deeper color, and fuchsite is very light. But I would say they kind of hold the same, they have the same hue or tone. Not sure about the lingo exactly. Let's look at something else. Let's look at something like Potter's Pink. So this is a very muted color. You can already see, right? When I put it like here next to all of these, it looks sad. No, it doesn't look sad. It's a pretty color. But, you know, you look at it and it definitely has that earthiness to it, like almost like a brown undertone. So I definitely think it'll be more leaning in that area of the pinks and not in the blue area. Where exactly, I don't know. Again, we can use the color wheel and kind of see. I think this is the closest that I can find, like the mix here of red and gray. So I'm going to put it there. I think it's a good place for it. And then, of course, you know, I can mix these two, and this will probably fill this space nicely. Let's try neutrals. Now, this is where it gets difficult because, you know, okay, you have a black, where would you include it? Well, if it's a really, really completely neutral black that you can't say this is warmer or cooler or anything, you can just, you know, put it somewhere in the middle. I mean, it is your color wheel, right? So this is, for example, Lunar Black. I think it's a pretty neutral black. But if you wanted to kind of see where your neutrals land, so let's take a look. We have, sometimes you need to dilute them a bit to see the undertones better. And we can also drop some water and see the separation, because I love granulating and separating blacks. So this is Lunar Black, this is Bloodstone, which is just a beautiful Daniel Smith color. It's pretty similar to Lunar Black, but it looks, you know, again, you have to kind of add water to see the undertones. To me, it's a little bit, what are you? It's just this kind of looks more gray, and then this one looks just a little bit, I don't know, just a bit kind of cooler to me. And then it gets a little bit easier with something like Dusk Pink, which has a definite pink undertone. So I would put it, let's look where, and I probably put it here. Together with the Cascade Green, because I don't think it's turquoisey enough. It's not blue enough to be here. And now next to this, you can see how green, like olive greeny and yellow, these look, like this one looks next to that one. So I really hope this helps you to see the small differences and tones. I'm just looking at my palette if there's something that I think would be challenging to place. Let's look at lavender. I think my lavender, I think the one I have here is the Daniel Smith one. And I think it could be like a good, I think it's blue enough to be here and not here. So this is where I would put lavender. And then what other colors could be interesting? Something like, you know, these kind of pastel colors. So this is called shell pink. Yeah, this is shell pink from, I don't know, Holbein or Shinhan. They have kind of the same colors. And let's look. And then, sometimes it can be helpful. Let's put the, this color, which I can never pronounce. So these two, you can see this one is definitely more orange and this one is pinker. So I'm going to go with putting it here because this is still pink to me and this is the reddest or most orangey pink area. And then this one, you know, it's actually looking a bit, yeah, I think it can go here, but it's definitely not a saturated color. So I wouldn't put it outside. And what else? Let's try maybe some earth tones. I don't have a lot in my palette, but let's look at Goethite. So yeah, I think it goes good close to the orange mixed with black on their palette. So I'm going to put it here. Yeah, this is pretty neutral. I mean, it's almost like a light brown, but it is heavy on the like yellow and orange. So this is Goethite. Let's look at, now this is again where it gets really difficult with something like a gray titanium. Where can I put it? It's just gray, you know? I mean, you can look at the color wheels where they mix things with gray and kind of see what you think fits the tone the most. I would say probably this is the closest, but then this would be a lot closer to buff titanium. I would say buff titanium probably falls here. And then gray titanium is just, I don't know, I'm not sure. You know, it's just too gray, you know, it's too neutral. So somewhere in the middle, I would place it. And what else? Let's see, Rose of Ultramarine. You can see. This is pretty saturated, but not like crazy saturated. I mean, it does look more muted when you put it next to my Cobalt Violet. So I would feel comfortable putting it here. It's still a rich color, but I feel this still kind of reads more bright. Now, if I didn't have here Cobalt Violet, you know, maybe I wouldn't mind including this here, because I think you could probably, it's probably vibrant enough that you could neutralize it into a semi-muted, muted, and then neutral colors. But I'm okay with it like this. So what you can see here is a really good representation of the colors that I love. And you can see there are a lot of holes here, not so much here. And then I'm very particular about my yellows. Oh, I will include, okay, this, two more colors. This is Lunar Earth. And I think this also kind of leans orange. So maybe in the red orange. Yeah, I would say probably this. So probably it'll take up this space, but since it's taken, I'll just put it here. So I feel it's more vibrant than the Go Tight. And I probably wouldn't need both of them in a painting. But if I did want to use both of them, I think they would really, you know, play together well because they are kind of similar. So I think for me, once things get kind of out of balance, when I start including really different colors than the ones I already have in my color palette. Okay, last color I want to show you is Naples Yellow, which is this beautiful buttery shade of yellow. And I think it falls somewhere here. This leans a little bit too green, so I'm going to put it, it's definitely not a bright color. I'm going to put it here. Now, when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this probably lives here. But yeah, it's usually my primary, so I put it where the yellow is, but it probably belongs here if you want to be true to the color wheel. However, I also have quinacridone gold on my palette, so I'm going to put it here. And then maybe sometimes with the second glaze, the colors are more easy to differentiate. Okay, so these are, you know, most of the colors that I have. I think the ones we didn't touch are really... Okay, let's look at this one, last one, I promise now. Because this is such an interesting color. So this is, where am I gonna put it? This is Hematite Violet. And to me, this kind of reads neutral, but it has some pink tones to it. So looking at this, you know, it probably fits here. And that's where I'm going to put it, with the reds. Or in my case, the warmer pinks. So I think it really fits nicely here. And, you know, let's see how it plays with what I have on the opposite side. The turquoise, cobalt teal. I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, that's a nice... It's a nice neutral color. Really interesting. Okay, we're done. I hope you painted along, and I hope this helped you kind of see where your color preferences are, what your watercolors can do, and you know, where they fall on the color wheel, which hopefully will give you clarity to what you're drawn to. And if you have like a lot of colors and if your color wheel is completely full, that's okay. Try and look at all the different areas and see where, you know, what really, really makes you happy. For me personally, it's like this area. I think these are beautiful. I'm not sure about the Potter's pink. It's probably not really my perfect muted pink, but I'm pretty sure I could get some mixtures from the other colors to kind of get to that perfect place. I love these. I think these are just the most beautiful neutrals, and they would be so lovely as, you know, foliage or just like background colors for my florals. The violets are beautiful. Yeah, that's kind of where my heart is. I mean, sometimes lavender is also a favorite of mine, and maybe pops of ultramarine blue. But in general, I can tell you I'm not at all drawn to like these blues, not at all drawn to these greens, and not drawn to like really orangey, like strong orange, yellow, browns. So the neutrals that I love are really usually in this area. That's it. And this one is actually one that we didn't take a look in. So I just want to show you the different, just a different feel. It all depends on what colors you have. So this is cobalt violet, Naples yellow, lunar blue, and cascade green. I think that's, oh, and here I see also the hematite violet. So you can see very limited palette, but look at all these tones and look how interesting all these mixtures are. So I hope this will give you kind of a good place to start your journey to understanding your color sense. And I think also here now we can look a bit and see the differences between bloodstone and lunar black. And you know, you can look at these two, they're so similar that, you know, maybe next time I buy paint or the next palette that I curate, I will feel confident not to include both of them, even though I love them both. But, you know, looking at this, I think bloodstone is really, really lovely. It's close enough, neutral enough that I think it can do anything that lunar blue does, that lunar black does. But I just like it now a little bit more today. So I'll know next time I paint if I want a very neutral, almost black color, I can go with bloodstone and I don't have to go to lunar black because they are similar enough. Okay, that's it, very long. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, bye.